You want to know how to start a war on a ranch? Just block a man's only gate with a cherry red convertible, heels sinking in the mud, sunglasses big enough to cover half her face, waving like she's at a gala instead of trespassing on private dirt. I was out fixing a busted fence post. Peaceful, nothing but cicadas and the smell of morning dew, when the circus arrived from the subdivision. The one with its parade of community and matching lawns. Their queen, Karen, was leading the charge that day, champagne glass in one hand, voice a little too loud for this kind of quiet. "I'll only be 10 minutes, she said, like that made it all right. 10 minutes, huh? Well, those 10 minutes turned into an hour, turned into a neighborhood spectacle. She had friends arriving in matching SUVs, parking half on my gravel, half on my pasture, all of them dressed for Beverly Hills, not for a place where you can still smell cattle on the wind. Karen told me my gate was public access now, said the HOA voted to integrate the entryways. I pointed to my family name carved in steel, said, "That's my name. That means it's private." She just smirked, lowered her sunglasses, and tossed her hair. "You can't own a view." I wanted to laugh at the way she said it, but mostly, I just took photos. Every angle, every license plate, the tire tracks carving up my grass. I even called the sheriff, just to see what they'd do. Out stepped a deputy, a cousin of Karen's, I'd later find out, giving me that let it slide routine. "Sure, officer. I'll let it slide." Karen winked at me after the deputy left. That's when I realized this wasn't just a bad neighbor. This was a test. The thing is, I don't get angry easy. Not anymore. Anger's for people with nothing to lose. I learned that in the army, patience, that's the real weapon. By the time her little brunch up the hill was in full swing, with music drifting down and laughter echoing off the barn, I'd built myself a record, photos, videos, timestamps, maps, all showing that red convertible sitting smack where it shouldn't be. My neighbor Earl drove by, whistled, "You got yourself a fancy roadblock." Karen waved him off, told him the brunch was charity for ourselves. Earl just about spilled his coffee laughing. Patience. That's what I kept telling myself. But patience isn't passive. It's a slow grind. I watched, waited, made coffee, and stared at that car until the sun went down, the air buzzing with a tension that's hard to name. The next morning, there she was. Again, same car, same chair, same cup with HOA Queen stamped on it, as if the title came with property rights. I asked her, as calm as I could manage, to move. She didn't even look up. "Didn't the sheriff tell you to relax?" She said I should be grateful folks wanted to drive through. Good for property value, she said. The kind of irony that makes you snort, you know? I told her, "You might want to move that car before I do." She laughed, loud, deep, trying to cover nerves. "I'd like to see you try." Her friends giggled from the SUV. I nodded, kept it cool, walked to the barn, ran my hand over the tractor's steel, thinking about my father's old sayings, "Don't start a fight till you've already won." Soon as her brunch buddies packed up, I started measuring boundaries, planting fresh markers, and sending more photos to the sheriff's office. This wasn't about ignorance anymore. It was about theater. She wanted a scene. She wanted me to snap, to look bad, to give her something to blast across the HOA's group chat. I wasn't giving her that. Not yet. Instead, I spent the afternoon in town, listening to the locals make jokes about hitching a bull to her convertible for community service. One rancher warned me, said she's got connections, sheriff's office, a lawyer brother, the works. I told him I'd handle it my way. Back at the ranch, I found someone had crossed out my name on a parking sign, wrote HOA event parking in black marker. That's when I knew. This wasn't just Karen, this was a campaign. By that point, the story was everywhere. Neighbors slowing down to stare, HOA group chat blowing up with half-truths and wild rumors. Karen posted a letter in my mailbox, accusing me of creating a hostile environment and frightening children with my military equipment. That old tractor of mine, the same one that pulled my father's plow, now apparently public enemy number one. You ever feel the whole world's gone crazy, and you're the only one who remembers what respect looks like? That's how it felt. But I stuck to my plan, record, document, wait. When the HOA held their big meeting at the hall, I showed up clean, boots dusted, hat on straight. Karen was at the front, pastel blazer and all, running a slideshow, pictures of my gate, my tractor, my obstruction issues. She talked about banning heavy machinery within visual range of the HOA boundary. I raised my hand, told her, "You're banning tractors on land that isn't yours?" The county rep, squirming in his seat, finally said it. "The ranch is outside HOA jurisdiction." Silence. Karen muttered something about revisiting boundaries, but the tide had turned. On the way out, Earl clapped me on the shoulder. Sometimes silence is the shovel, he grinned. But we both knew this was just round one. The next morning, there it was again, Karen's car, now with a "Reserved for HOA Business" sign taped to the windshield. Two teenagers rode up, asked if I was really going to crush it with a tank. "Not a tank," I said. "Just a tractor." They hooped and begged me to film it. That night, I sat on the porch with my dog, watching that car shine under the moon like a wound on the land. Revenge is best served cold, and sometimes with witnesses. So when the time was right, I did what she dared me to do. I fired up the tractor. The engine roared to life, shaking the barn and the ground beneath my boots. I rolled out, slow and steady, toward the gate. Karen was hosting another brunch, laughing with her friends, thinking she'd won. She didn't see me coming until the last minute. Her face went from smug to panicked as the tractor's steel plate touched her bumper. She started filming, shouting about lawsuits and criminal destruction of property. I just kept rolling, deliberate, slow, letting every phone camera in the crowd record the lesson. The alarm screamed. Glass cracked, red paint twisted under steel. Even the deputy, her cousin, arrived and just stood there, realizing she was on private land, outnumbered by proof. When I shut off the engine, you could have heard a pin drop. Karen just stood there, clutching her phone, speechless for once. The teens cheered. Someone said, "That's how you move a car." Laughter rippled through the crowd, breaking the tension like a fresh wind. Of course, lawsuits followed. Karen tried to drag me through court for emotional distress, but by then, the videos had gone viral, half the county cheering, the rest wanting to buy me a beer. My lawyer, Morris, said, "You're just a man with a tractor, and that's exactly why they love you." At the hearing, her lawyer put on a show, but all it took was the judge watching the footage. "Case dismissed," he said. The gavel hit the desk, and that was that. Afterward, Karen tried to say I'd humiliated her. I told her, "No, you did that to yourself." She left, her reputation in shambles, the HOA scrambling for new leadership. Some neighbors stopped by to shake my hand, thanking me for doing what everyone else was too tired or scared to do. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about boundaries, about respect. The kind of thing you plant deep and hope it takes root. I even got a letter from Karen's husband, Alan. Months later, found a folder full of her plans to annex my land, to turn my ranch into picnic trails and greenways. He looked me in the eye and said, "Not everyone agreed with her. We were just afraid to speak up." I told him, "You're speaking now. That's what counts." Funny thing is, the only evidence left now is a patch of wildflowers where her car used to block the gate. Life has a way of reclaiming what pride tries to ruin. Every so often, a stranger drives by slow, looking for that infamous spot, snapping a picture. Maybe they're hoping to see justice. Maybe they're looking for proof that you can still stand your ground in a world that wants you to fold. I'm not a hero. I'm just stubborn. I plant my fences deep and I let the gate swing when I please. And if there's any lesson left from all this noise, it's simple. Respect is something you show, not something you demand. You don't get it by making rules. You get it by standing still, holding the line, and letting the world see you won't move for arrogance, not even for a cherry red convertible. So here's my question for you. Where do you draw your lines? When do you say enough? Drop your thoughts down below. Tell me your own battle with respect, boundaries, or that one neighbor who just won't quit. Let's hear what you do when someone parks their pride right across your gate. And if you made it this far, give this story a like, share it, and stick around, because out here, the lessons never really end. 3.